Bruce Lehrmann was accused of raping Brittany Higgins, a former media advisor for the Morrison government, inside a parliamentary suite after a night out drinking with other staffers. He pleaded not guilty to the charge and said he never had sex with Ms. Higgins. His trial began on October 4, 2021, in the ACT Supreme Court and was expected to last 4 to 6 weeks. The trial attracted immense public and media interest, as it sparked a national conversation about the culture of Parliament House and the treatment of women who work there. Ms. Higgins' allegations also led to an independent inquiry into the workplace culture at Parliament House, which is yet to be completed. Ms. Higgins was the main witness for the prosecution and gave evidence for 4 days. She told the court that she had no memory of consenting to any sexual activity with Mr. Lehrmann and that she woke up naked and bruised on a couch in the ministerial office. She said she felt humiliated and violated by what happened and that she did not report it to the police at first because she feared losing her job. The prosecution also called evidence from other witnesses, including Liberal Senators Linda Reynolds and Michaelia Cash, who were Ms. Higgins' former bosses, and journalists Lisa Wilkinson and Samantha Maiden, who broke the story of the alleged rape. The court heard that Ms. Higgins' partner, David Sheraz, had sent a timeline of events to some journalists before Ms. Higgins had formally spoken to the police, which Mr. Lehrmann's defense lawyer suggested was an attempt to influence public opinion. Mr. Lehrmann did not give evidence in his own defense, but his lawyer cross-examined Ms. Higgins and other witnesses extensively. He argued that Ms. Higgins was not as intoxicated as she claimed and that she had flirted with Mr. Lehrmann throughout the night. He also questioned her credibility and suggested that she had fabricated or exaggerated her account of the alleged rape. The trial came to an abrupt end on October 27, 2021, when the jury was discharged after one of the jurors was found with an academic paper on sexual assault in the jury room. The paper discussed issues such as consent, memory and trauma, which were relevant to the case. The judge ruled that this was a serious breach of the jury's oath and that it could have prejudiced the outcome of the trial. The prosecution has indicated that it will seek a retrial of Mr. Lehrmann, but no date has been set yet. Mr. Lehrmann remains on bail until then. Ms. Higgins has expressed her disappointment and frustration with the mistrial and said she hopes for justice in the future. One of the biggest challenges for the prosecution in this case was the leak of a confidential police report that cast doubt on Brittany Higgins' account of what happened on the night of March 22, 2019. The report, which was obtained by the Australian newspaper and published in February 2021, claimed that Higgins had given inconsistent statements to the police and had refused to cooperate with their investigation. The report also suggested that there was not enough evidence to support a charge of sexual assault against Bruce Lehrmann. The prosecution argued that the leak was an outrageous breach of trust and privacy that could have jeopardized the trial and influenced potential jurors. They said that the report was based on incomplete information and did not reflect the full scope of the evidence they had gathered. They also said that Higgins had been willing to cooperate with the police, but had faced delays and difficulties in accessing legal and medical support. The defense, on the other hand, used the leak to their advantage and tried to undermine Higgins' credibility and reliability as a witness. They questioned her memory and motivation for coming forward with her allegations, and suggested that she had embellished or fabricated some details of her story. They also argued that the leak showed that the police had serious doubts about the strength of their case and had tried to pressure Higgins into making a formal complaint. The leak of the police report was widely condemned by politicians, journalists, and advocates for survivors of sexual violence. They said that it was a violation of Higgins' rights and dignity, and that it could discourage other victims from reporting their abuse. They also called for an independent inquiry into how the leak occurred and who was responsible for it. The defense lawyer for Bruce Lehrmann, the former advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister who was accused of raping a woman in Parliament House, launched a scathing attack on the media coverage of the case. He claimed that the media had already convicted Lehrmann in the court of public opinion, and that they had violated his right to a fair trial by publishing sensational and prejudicial stories about him. He argued that Lehrmann was still innocent until proven guilty, and that the jury should not be influenced by the media reports. He said that the prosecution had failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Lehrmann had sexually assaulted the woman without her consent, and that there were inconsistencies and gaps in her evidence. He urged the jury to consider Lehrmann's version of events, which was that he had a consensual sexual encounter with the woman after a night of drinking and flirting. He said that Lehrmann had no motive or intention to harm the woman, and that he was a respected and trusted member of the government staff. He said that Lehrmann had been devastated by the allegations, and that he had suffered irreparable damage to his reputation and career. He asked the jury to acquit Lehrmann of all charges, and to restore his dignity and honor.